Hello everybody and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review, and this time it is another home media release. It's going to be the first of 4 weeks in a row worth of these as I bring you a review on Rocky, now remastered and released in 4K Ultra HD Disc on Blu-ray, which is out on Steelbook tomorrow, and a box set is also coming out tomorrow. So, before I get into that sort of stuff, I'm just going to go over what the plans are with these. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of the Rocky films. We've covered them on the channel before. Creed 3 is coming out later this week. We're going to be at a screening on Tuesday for it. And when the announcement came that there was going to be a new remaster, they were going to finally release them on 4K, I was like, brilliant, we're finally going to get the chance to talk about Rocky. And then the big announcement came. It's only going to be Rocky 1 to 4, which is a really interesting predicament. I've seen different things online. Some people believe it's a rights thing. There's also discussions that Sylvester Stallone is working on a new cut for Rocky 5 and Rocky Balboa. I don't know why, but he did it, of course, to Rocky 4 during lockdown. So everything's a bit of a question mark as to what's going to happen with these. And nonetheless, these are one of my favourite franchises of all time, and certainly that first film is one of the best ones ever made as far as I'm concerned. So I hit that pre-order button instantly, but I didn't want to order the box set. Instead, we've been treated to 4 new Steelbooks. Have the first one here, which is, as I said, out tomorrow. Zavvi in the UK, maybe Best Buy in America, I believe. And it's something that I wanted to get out a review out, to revisit the film once more. Any excuse to watch the Rocky films. So this is where I am at today doing this review. I'm going to give my thoughts on it. Now, if you've never seen a video of ours on the channel before, if you're a big fan of Rocky, then as I said, we covered this in a series before, but if you want my initial thoughts, I've just called Rocky one of the best films ever made. I genuinely think this is one of the best franchises ever done. Inspiring is another statement to what these films have done. Over the top's a word many people use, but to me, to fans of these, they're pretty much perfect as far as I'm concerned. I think it's potentially on a home run. If Creed 3 hits, we've got genuinely... I think Reese from Rio's Positive POV, who have done videos of, he says the same thing, that it could be an almost perfect franchise with one bad entry in theory out of 9, which is incredible. But as I said, I'm here to review the 4K Ultra HD disc, but yes, Rocky 1, I'm a massive fan. I love it. It's one of the best ones ever made. The story behind the scenes, how it came to be, the stuff with Butkus, is something that I've always had a massive, not personal connection to, because I've not been through anything like that at all. But certainly when you get dogs involved and it's people's livelihoods, it's just this inspiring story, and that is the character of Rocky. Rocky is that inspirational idea melded into one individual character, played by Sylvester Stallone, and it is just amazing. It's always amazing to revisit this film. So that's my thoughts. Just quickly on the Rocky, because I'm going to get into the actual discs, because people might also be wondering, is it worth buying Rocky on 4K? It's always a really important question for me when I'm trying to pick up 4K films. I'm at a really interesting point in my collecting where I'm collecting more than I used to. Of course, we're doing these reviews now as well, which is great. And I like to approach films. I've owned Rocky on DVD, I've owned it on Blu-ray. I was thinking, is Rocky going to be the one that jumps out? And I just had to hit that button to find out for myself. I don't know if there's any reviews elsewhere. I've tried to search, I've not seen much. But for me, at least, I wanted to come into this thinking, do I want to buy this as a Rocky fan? And maybe do people want to know at home if this is worth dipping into? Maybe they've never seen a Rocky film, they're curious about, is it worth picking up? So straight away, I'm going to try and approach this the best, nicest scenario. Whereas, yes, I would buy this on 4K, Rocky 1. Now, I mentioned there's a box set coming out tomorrow as well. The Rocky 1 to 4 box set, I have a real serious issue with. I understand why it's been released. Of course, Creed is out this week. It's the perfect time to bring out a Rocky box set. If I'm being completely honest, I wouldn't want to buy a Rocky box set that isn't complete. I've got a very OCD thing about incomplete box sets. You can even see the ones behind me on the shelf. You've got the Harry Potter films, the Star Wars Skywalker Saga, and Bond 50, which to me is always the big one. Solidified at 50 years. They needed a Bond 61 on 4K. We didn't get it. We don't know why. It's frustrating, yes, I know, but I will never pick up a Rocky 1 to 4 incomplete box set. And I've missed out on some great box sets over the years due to this, but it's just something I'm quite strong-willed for. And, you know, there might be other channels that drop reviews for all 4 of them. Fair play to them. Do seek them out. They'll be doing the same thing. Is it worth picking those up? But of course, here, how we'll do it, we're going to get Steelbook arrive each week. And each week I'm going to drop a review. I'm very lucky the delivery came early. It came earlier today. I've spent my evening rewatching Rocky. Of course I would. Why not? I've got the Creed films to rewatch just before Tuesday as well. So it's going to be a pretty intense boxing few days. But yes, that's the backstory of picking those up. As I said, there'll be 3 more reviews. And if the day comes where we do get Rocky 5 and 6 Stallone cuts for each, hopefully they release them in Steelbook in line with the artwork from 1 to 4. Obviously, we've also got the whole MGM situation with Amazon, but these coming out, I think, is a very big thing in light of they're still going to continue to do home media, which to me is a very important thing. But as I said, there will be other reviews coming down the line, so I hope that works. I've been talking for 5 minutes, it's time to get into it. So straight off the bat, 4K for me as an entity. If it's a film I know, Star Wars is probably the go-to example whenever there's a new release dropped at home. I would always pick up things much quicker than I would on a film I've not seen before. Sometimes I'll be thinking, oh, what year was this film from? Because it just looks so good. The opening scenes of Rocky pop instantly, the colours for me. Now, of course, you've got the church scene and whatnot, and some might think, oh, is that overgraining? I was worried about scrubbing. There is no scrubbing. But for me, it's how is this film going to look? Because Rocky, it's about the story inherently for me as a fan. But it's iconography, it's imagery, the run, the steps, the boxing fights. So much of this I wanted to see, is this going to not necessarily look different, but is this worth the upgrade? Was it worth me getting rid of a box set of the Blu-rays to bring in the 4Ks? And I do think it delivers with that. Certainly when you get to the boxing fight at the end of Apollo Creed, 4K's been fascinating, and I know that there's so many articles and videos out there on what difference does 4K do. Now, my personal mindset with it is that the jump to 4K is so much more of a jump than standard definition was to HD, as crazy as that sounds. The more I've seen, the more I've started to see things better. And certainly those older films, the films shot on film, they just look so much better. And obviously we know that they, in theory, 35mm will get up to about 8K. I don't think 8K is going to be a home media format. I've said this before. But Rocky was one where I kind of came into this day thinking, okay, this is it. How will this be? I'd be gutted if it didn't look good, but it did. And my word, seeing some of these scenes, and the thing is with 70s film, because the 70s is one of my favourite decades for cinema, film isn't at that pristine level. Now, this is going to sound really strange and insulting, but there's this grittiness to so many films from that decade that has weaved itself onto 4K at such a good rate. Jaws is another one that jumps out, that it's not too clean, it's not dirty, but it feels like this is a 4K attachment of what it was like watching this film in the 70s. Obviously, I wasn't around back then, so some older people might think I'm absolutely talking nonsense. I hope that's not too much of the case, but that's how I've always felt seeing those 70s films. And as you get towards the late 80s, 90s, they look absolutely perfect, but there's just something about the 70s ones that just jumps out to me, and it's instantly something I want to see more of. And I do think picture-wise it delivered with that. The HDR, how it was shot, how it popped, the editing they've done for it, I think it's a very good remaster. There's been some terrible ones, of course there has been in the past, but for me, visually, it looked like an improvement on what has come before, and that is the most important thing. And the danger with obviously HD and modern is like what happened with Plane Trains. Also, we also reviewed it last year. When they try and scrub away so much stuff, it just looks terrible, it looks weird, it looks CGI. It's not. It's a technique that people were trying, and I don't think it works. It might work for some younger people that don't want grain, but there's a lot of grain in this, and it retained its screen accuracy. And that's what I've got to fundamentally, visually, this film works. Now, audio-wise, there's no Dolby Atmos track. I wasn't expecting it for the Rocky films, but just on the off chance where it's still got the same soundtrack that was on the Blu-ray one, it still sounds amazing. Whatever speaker system you've got, it's going to still sound great. It's Rocky, it's the theme, it's the punches. It does work in that respect. And then I've got to talk about the special features as well. There's a couple of commentaries on there. There's nothing else. Now, I don't know the politics, I don't know the real life stuff at the moment, but of course, if you follow Sony on Instagram, you'll see he spoke about Rocky 7, the project's been cancelled. There's clearly a lot of political stuff that we'll never know about. But if he is also working on Rocky 5 and 6 cut, I'm sort of intrigued as to what extra stuff might there be, but I understand why there isn't newer stuff on this 4K release. Now, obviously, we also know Creed 3 isn't going to be the last Creed film. Michael B. Jordan spoke about wanting to do more Creed films in the future, so I don't need to worry about thinking, am I buying into something when we could have a complete Rocky Creed set in a couple of months? That's also not the case, luckily for us, so we don't need to worry about that long term, even though we wouldn't have Rocky 5 or 6 anyway. My only fear is when Rocky 5 and 6 do come out, it is going to be something that is a Rocky 1 to 6 box set, which would be really frustrating when you're investing money into buying them on disc, buying them on Steelbook. So That's another side thing. So in regards to special features, there's not much there. If you've already got this on Blu-ray, you're not missing anything jumping up on behind the scenes aspects. The packaging itself, it's a Steelbook. It looked amazing. The one I picked up on the back, of course, you've got the Philadelphia steps. If you're into collecting Steelbooks still, I think it's a great one to have. They could a little bit more of the front cover. It could be embossed, I think, with the Rocky word. It does just sort of sit in there, and it has this punch to it which works, but they could have maybe put a little bit more effort into that Steelbook front, which is something I'd say. It's not a major thing for me, if I'm being honest. I wanted the Steelbooks because I love the Rocky films, and there are certain films where I like having them all in a Steelbook set compared to normal. See last year, the amazing Indiana Jones ones they did. But I'm kind of segueing into a final thoughts on this. Because again, it was still quite nice doing 4K home media stuff, and when you're doing something like Rocky that's been done and dusted so many times over the years, I'm approaching this from a visual standpoint, and then I have to ask that question that I do on every 4K review: is this worth buying on 4K? And this is where I'm in a slight predicament. If you're a fan of Rocky, get it in 4K. You're going to notice the difference. This is going to be a big jump. It might be one of your favourite films. You might be fans of those films. Make that jump. It will be worth it. Obviously, we don't know about 2, 3, and 4 yet. If there's great reviews on those box sets, maybe pick up the box set if you're desperate. If you're like me, you want the individual ones, then we're going to find out once each week, aren't we? So I'm in a weird statement with this. I think if I was just a casual fan of film, fan of Rocky, I don't think this is worth the jump from Blu-ray to 4K. But if you are a collector, if you're into 4K, as I said, if you're a fan of the Rocky films, Stallone films, Carl Weathers, so much stuff, there is definitely room to make that jump, and it does have the visual quality to go with it. It just looks incredible, and it's just amazing seeing how 4K is coming on in so many older films. And it does still make me worried about those early noughties, mid-late noughties films that are now getting these 4K remasters. I know Pirates of the Caribbean, they've just announced a massive box set for all 5, but we know how bad that first Pirates of the Caribbean 4K was last year. So there are certain nerves of some things, but I think the further back you go into the history of film, the better they're going to look. Now, I saw Singing in the Rain for the first time recently on that 4K, and it just genuinely was one of the best discs I think I've ever seen, if I'm being honest. So, not to plug that as well, but it's one of those where it's a tough question, because I'm not here to say, buy this, buy that. I'm here to approach this as a fan, as a viewer. Is this worth it? For me, this is. It might not be the case for you. As I said, if you're a casual fan, keep hold of your Rocky box set. Maybe wait until Rocky 1 to 6 is fully done and they're on offer or whatnot. That's a very common 4K thing, but for me at least, if you're going in on the first week, get that Steelbook. If you're a fan of Rocky, you're going to end up getting that Steelbook anyway. So this is going to round out a weird review. I think it'll be a bit more easier to do on Rocky 2. I actually just finished watching the film 10 minutes ago, so it's completely in my head, the visuals from. But as I said, I'm here for the Rocky films. I love these. They're near and dear to my heart, and they have been for a very long time. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. Let me know your thoughts. If you've got any questions about the discs, do comment them below. I'll reply to those. And I said, if you do pick this up and do watch it, let me know. We want to hear from you. And if you like this video, there's a couple more Rocky ones coming on the way. We've at least got a month of it. We've got Creed review coming out on Wednesday. It's a good time to be a fan of all this, and do stick with us for that. So do follow us on our social medias, Twitter and Instagram @cinema_savvy. Letterboxd and Facebook.com/cinemasavvy, and a link to Redbubble in the description below where you can pick up any merch if you're interested in doing so. Aside from that, there's so much stuff happening on the channel. We've got The Last of Us coming tomorrow night with another spoiler discussion. We've of course got our monthly show tonight where we're going to go over all the films we've watched in February, which is always good fun to do. So there's a couple more shows. We've got the Rocky reviews happening. Mandalorian starts Wednesday. Cocaine Bear review was last night as well. So there's so much stuff happening. Do stick around, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.